cili mbulon zhvillimet më të reja ekonomike në shënimet ose analiza fokusuan në Kosovë, në zhvillimet ekonomike në Kosovë.
It's grown rapidly recently, so it's not a concern per se. What is the
Çka bazohet kjo rritje ekonomike 4.2%, kur është zhvillim?
It is not concerning for now. There is a possibility that the debt levels can surpass 30% of GDP.
Supported if you don't have an injection of investments, stronger role of the private side, their citizens that went through a conflict in different ways, so that's not...
The impact of the public debt through more productive investments, but also in...
So, while positive, it should be much higher to accelerate growth. That landlocked, that can grow sustainably with the level of exports. One of the spotlight of the report to put emphasis on the importance of creating a competitive environment that unleashes the role of the private sector in order to create jobs. So one dimension. The other dimension is human capital. We have discussed this in the past for Kosovo. As you know, taking Kosovo as an example, the children here are expected to complete 12.8 years of pre-primary, primary, and secondary school by age 18. But when you factor in the quality of the learning and the quality of the education they receive, that is equivalent to 7.7 years. We put emphasis on this and on this gap to emphasize the need to create the right skills in the people of the Western Balkans in order to achieve an economy that creates jobs. This is what the economists call the supply side of job creation. So this is another spotlight in the report. Let me conclude by highlighting few messages specific to Kosovo, and Hasla will go into the details. We estimate growth in 2018 at 4.2%. This, with a few other countries, is among the top growth in the Western Balkans. This is driven by public and private investment, so investments are a positive factor that we appreciate seeing as part of the growth function. Service exports, these are more services linked to diaspora, so travel of the diaspora and things like that. So we would like to see more value-added services to participate to the export. And the recovery of consumption that had been declining in the past. So again, like other countries in the region, positive growth and positive news for Kosovo. We estimate that this growth level will be maintained unless some of the risks that I mentioned before materialize.
Consumption also increased, and this was driven by higher public wages, higher remittances in 2018, but also higher consumer lending. Net exports subtracted from growth in 2018, as you can see with the gray bar over here. And this was because imports were higher to meet the demand for capital goods, but also goods exports declined in 2018. This was due to lower base metal and minerals exports and other categories under the goods exports. On the other hand, tourism exports grew rapidly, service exports were higher, and this was driven by the Kosovar diaspora expenditures from abroad. I would also like to mention that 2018 figures are still estimates, and exact figures will be released later in April. Kosovo is a very young population, and the working age population continues to grow. The working age population in Kosovo in 2018 increased by 12,000 people, while the labor market participation shrank by 18,000 people, which left the labor market. Youth unemployment also increased, and labor market continues to be, labor force participation continues to be low at 40.9% as a share of working age population. This is, employment rate is one of the lowest in the region, and this is due to high inactivity rate, but also the large gender gap in the region. Because women, as you can see here, are less likely to join the labor market in Kosovo compared to the other countries in the region. There is a very large gender gap. When it comes to consumer prices, they also increased in 2018. While they were moderate at the beginning of 2018, consumer price inflation picked up towards the end of the year. And in December, inflation reached 2.9% year-on-year due to increases in prices of fuel, food, tobacco, and transportation. There were further increases in January and February. While the year-on-year inflation at the end of 2018 was at 2.6, the average inflation during this period amounted to 1.1% in 2018. In terms of the external accounts, external deficit widened in 2018 to 8.7% of GDP from a lower 6% in 2017. This was mainly driven by lower minerals exports and higher goods imports in 2018, and the increases in service exports couldn't compensate for the increases in exports. The external deficit size, while is not an immediate concern currently, it is worrying in the sense that economy's dependence on foreign financing, in other words, heavy reliance on remittances, can cause a threat to external sustainability in the medium to near term.